Under the glow of a dim street lamp, a young mother stood on the corner of a bustling city sidewalk, her voice carrying a melody so hauntingly beautiful it made strangers stop in their tracks. Her name was Maria, and in her arms was her little boy, Leo, his frail body wrapped in a tattered blanket. Leo's laughter once filled their tiny apartment, but now silence and worry had taken its place. Medical bills had piled up, and the treatment he desperately needed seemed like an impossible dream. Maria sang every night, not for applause, but for hope. Hope that someone, anyone, might hear her and offer a helping hand. Her voice was raw and powerful, filled with the kind of emotion only a mother could summon. As the crowd thinned and her voice cracked with exhaustion, a sleek black Cadillac rolled to a stop just feet away. The tinted window slid down, and for a moment, Maria held her breath. Who was inside? What did they want? She had no idea this encounter would change everything. For her, for Leo, and for the stranger listening in the dark. Stay tuned to hear the incredible story of what happened next. Maria's heart raced as she stared at the Cadillac. The city noise faded into the background, leaving only the sound of her own breathing. She had grown used to people passing her by, barely glancing in her direction. But this was different. The car didn't move. The driver didn't step out. It was as if the world itself had paused. The window lowered further, revealing a man in his early 40s. He was dressed sharply, his expression unreadable. For a moment, Maria hesitated. She pulled Leo closer, unsure if she should keep singing or walk away. But something in the man's gaze held her there, a mix of curiosity and something else she couldn't quite place. He leaned out slightly, his voice cutting through the tension. "That song, why are you singing it here?" Maria swallowed hard, the weight of her reality pressing down on her. She didn't want to spill her troubles to a stranger, but what choice did she have? "It's for my son," she replied softly. "He's sick. I'm trying to raise money for his treatment." The man didn't respond right away. Instead, he studied her, as if deciding something important. "And what's his name?" he finally asked. "Leo," she whispered, her voice breaking. The man nodded, but his expression remained unreadable. Then, without another word, he reached for something inside the car. Maria watched anxiously as the man rummaged through his glove compartment. Her mind raced with questions. Was he about to offer help? Or was this something else entirely? The city had taught her to be wary, but she couldn't afford to walk away from even a glimmer of hope. She tightened her hold on Leo, his tiny face pressed against her shoulder, his breathing shallow but steady. The man finally pulled out a sleek black wallet. He opened it, but instead of pulling out cash, he took out a business card. "This is my number," he said, handing it to her through the window. "Call me tomorrow. I think I can help." Maria stared at the card, her fingers trembling as she took it. It wasn't what she had expected. No promises, no explanations. Just a name and a number. She glanced at him, searching for any sign of deception, but his face remained calm, almost distant. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why would you help us?" The man didn't answer directly. "Sometimes the right song reaches the right ears," he said cryptically. Then, without another word, he rolled up the window and drove off, leaving Maria standing there, clutching Leo and the card. That night, as she sat by Leo's side in their tiny apartment, Maria couldn't stop wondering about the man in the Cadillac. Who was he? Could he really help, or was this just another dead end? The questions kept swirling, and with them, a new sense of urgency. She had no idea that this small moment of connection would soon unravel a web of secrets far bigger than she ever imagined. The next morning, Maria held the card tightly, its corners already worn from her restless fingers. She had replayed the man's words all night, torn between hope and suspicion. But as Leo's faint coughs broke the silence of their apartment, the choice became clear. She couldn't afford to hesitate, not when every second mattered. Dialing the number felt like leaping into the unknown. The phone rang twice before the man's calm voice answered. "Maria," he said, as if expecting her. "I'm glad you called. Meet me at this address in an hour." He gave her directions to a high-rise building downtown. The address alone made her uneasy. She had never stepped foot in a place like that. But she bundled up Leo and made her way there, her heart pounding with every step. When she arrived, a sharply dressed receptionist greeted her, guiding her to a private elevator. As the doors closed, Maria felt trapped, the air heavy with uncertainty. When they opened again, she stepped into a luxurious office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The man from the Cadillac stood by the window, his back to her. "Thank you for coming," he said, turning slowly. "There's something you need to know about me and why I stopped that night." Maria froze, her grip on Leo tightening. His tone was different now, serious, almost foreboding. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Instead of answering, he gestured to a large envelope on the desk. "This will explain everything," he said. "But once you open it, there's no going back." Maria's pulse quickened as she reached for the envelope. Her fingers hesitated over the seal, knowing whatever was inside could change everything. But could it save Leo? The answer was just inches away, and yet it felt impossibly far. Maria's hands trembled as she tore open the envelope. Inside was a stack of papers, contracts, photographs, and a single handwritten note. She skimmed the first few lines, her breath catching as she realized what she was holding. It wasn't just an offer of help, it was a proposition. The man stood silently, watching her reaction with an intensity that made her uneasy. This isn't just about Leo, is it?" she said, her voice wavering. The man crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "No, Maria. It's about you, and your voice." Maria stared at him, confused. Then she looked closer at the photographs. They were of her, singing on the street, taken from different angles, and on different nights. "Why do you have these?" she demanded, her voice rising. He sighed. "I've been looking for someone like you. Your voice, it has the power to move people, to inspire. I'm offering you a way to use that gift, but it comes with a cost." "What kind of cost?" she asked, her grip tightening on Leo, as if to shield him from whatever came next. The man stepped closer, his tone growing darker. "You'll have to leave behind everything you know. The life you have now, the person you are, it all changes. But in return, Leo gets the care he needs. No waiting, no debt, just a new beginning for both of you." Maria's chest tightened. The offer sounded too good to be true, and yet there was something about the way he spoke that made her believe he wasn't lying. But what wasn't he telling her? What was the catch? Before she could respond, the man's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting to something almost urgent. "Think carefully, Maria," he said, stepping toward the door. "But you don't have much time. There are others watching, and they might not wait for you to decide." As the door clicked shut behind him, Maria's heart pounded. She stared at the papers, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She thought she'd been fighting for Leo's life, but now it felt like she was being pulled into something far bigger and far more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. Maria sat frozen, the papers spread before her like pieces of a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. Leo stirred in her arms, his weak whimper pulling her back to reality. She couldn't waste any more time. With trembling fingers, she dialed the man's number. It rang once before he answered. "I'll do it," she said, her voice firm despite the storm of emotions inside her. "But I need to know everything first." There was a pause on the other end, then his measured response. "Meet me tonight. Same place." Hours later, Maria stood under the street lamp where it had all begun, Leo bundled tightly in her arms. The Cadillac pulled up, and the man stepped out, his expression unreadable as always. He handed her a folder, this one much thinner than the last. "This is the final step," he said. "But there's something I didn't tell you before." Maria's stomach sank. "What is it?" "This isn't just about your voice. It's about the truth it reveals. Your song, it led me to you for a reason. You have a past you don't remember, a family tied to something much bigger than you realize." Maria's heart raced. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated, then opened the folder to reveal an old photo of a young woman who looked strikingly like Maria, standing next to a man who bore an eerie resemblance to him. "That's my sister," he said softly. "And this was her son, your twin brother." Maria's mind reeled, her vision blurring. Her life had always been a mystery, her memories of childhood hazy at best. But now the man's words crashed over her like a wave. "Your voice," he continued, "is the same as hers. It's why I stopped that night. I thought she was gone forever, but then I heard you." Tears streamed down Maria's face as the weight of his revelation settled in. "So what happens now?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The man smiled faintly, a mix of sadness and relief. "Now we save Leo. And then we uncover the rest of the story together." As the city lights flickered around them, Maria realized this was only the beginning of a much larger journey. A journey she never saw coming. Maria stood under the street lamp, clutching Leo as the man's words sank in. She felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, confusion, and a faint glimmer of hope. The truth about her past was overwhelming, but one thing was clear. Her son's future now had a chance. The man kept his promise. Within days, Leo was admitted to one of the best hospitals, where he received the care he desperately needed. Maria stayed by his side, her heart swelling with gratitude each time she saw color return to his cheeks. The man visited often, bringing updates and answering the questions that still lingered in her mind. As Leo grew stronger, Maria began to piece together the fragments of her own story. The connection to the man's family, the echoes of her mother's voice in her own. It all started to make sense. Her music wasn't just a talent, it was a legacy, a thread tying her to a past she had never known. One evening, as she sang softly to Leo in his hospital bed, Maria realized something important. Her journey wasn't just about survival. It was about finding her voice, not just in song, but in life. And as she looked at Leo's peaceful face, she knew they were both finally free to start again.